This next technique that we're going to do is called the butterfly technique, and it's a compression technique. To begin with, we're going to stand behind our partner in a lunge position. We're going to put our hands right at the top of the back, as close to C7 as we can. You'll notice that my thumbs are together like this, making a butterfly shape. We're going to press into their back at right angles, hold, and release. You're going to shift the hands down the back several inches, push in at right angles slowly, hold, and release slowly. And we're going to continue this movement down the back. Now what we're essentially doing with this technique is transferring the weight from the front leg into the hands so that our weight is falling into our partner. It takes very little effort, but the person feels a lot of sensation. We're going to continue this right down to the top of the hips. Now this technique illustrates a number of our body use principles, and I want to go through these with you. The first one is keeping your back in a neutral alignment. You'll notice here as I go down her back with my hands that my back stays in a nice, long, straight line from my back heel to the top of my head. You want to avoid doing this, releasing the support in your abdomen. You also want to avoid doing this. A lot of times you're going to be afraid of letting your weight fall into your partner, so you're going to shift your weight onto your back legs. You don't have to let as much weight fall onto them. So you want to keep your back in a neutral position throughout. You don't want to get into a position where you're bending from your back either, like this. Now to avoid bending like that, what we need to do is bring the back leg back as we move down the back, and that drops our center of gravity so we can let our weight fall at right angles. So the way that we're going to do that is this. We're going to let our weight fall onto our partner, and I'll just lift my front leg here to illustrate the fact that my weight is falling into her. To release the pressure, I'm going to put the weight back on my front leg. I'm going to release the hands and slide them a few inches down the back. Now as I slide down the back, what I'm going to do is I'm going to move my back leg backwards. And this maintains my back in that nice long line. And I can repeat exactly the same thing. I can lift the weight off my front leg, let the weight fall through my hands, release the hands, shift the hands down, and as I shift the hands down, move the back leg back. Now, it's difficult to lift your leg completely off the ground as you do this. You're going to find it difficult to keep your balance. So I'm going to show you two ways that you can move that leg back and still have stability. The first way we're going to do this is by simply lifting our back heel slightly off the ground, pivoting the foot so the toes go out, and then pivoting the toes slightly forward. Pivot the toes out and forward, out and forward. And you can see that as I do that, I'm getting lower and lower. The second way I can do that is by lifting my toes so that I pivot on my heel, then putting my toes down on the ground, going onto the ball of my foot, and bringing my foot back into that neutral alignment. So I'm going to lift my toes, bring the toes to the outside, put my weight on the ball of my foot, and shift my heel back into a neutral alignment. And you can see as I do these little shifts, again, it brings my center of gravity downwards. The next principle that I want to illustrate here, or emphasize here, is that with every compression technique, you need to approach the back at right angles. If I'm in the mid-back and in my lunge position, you can see that my arms are at 90 degrees to her back, or perpendicular, so that as I let my weight fall forward, the compression is going in the right direction. Now, if I'm standing too low, for example, and let my weight fall forward, then this happens. You'll see movement happen in their body. In this case, you see her shirt slide up her back. Okay, so I always need to push at right angles. Now here at the top of the back, I can't get tall enough to push at right angles to her upper back. So in this case, what I need to do is I need to direct my pressure downwards this way. I'll be using the muscles in my arm a little bit more than transferring my weight forward in this case. So for these first techniques, just press downwards this way. Don't worry about this being deep. This is a very broad general technique that we're using to start off our routine with. So don't worry that they feel a lot of sensation with these initial techniques. Once I get a little bit more into the low back, then I can let my weight fall straight forward and continue down the back.